Once I saw her, I was no longer afraid. I felt like I had known her all my life. She looked at me with her icy-colored eyes, so calm and noble. She stepped further into the light before stopping. I could swear she was looking right into my soul. For a moment, I thought I could hear her voice in my head, willing me to join her. She turned around and then looked back over her shoulder at me. That's when I was certain she wanted me to follow her. So I did. She led me down the street and through a few alleys before heading out into an open field I barely knew existed. There was a paved trail that circled behind the last houses on the edge of town and headed back into civilization where people could get some exercise. The field was protected by an old barbed wire fence, and beyond the field was a forest. She found an opening in the fence easily missed by those who weren't looking at a specific angle. I continued to follow her as we entered the woods. The full moon had risen enough for me to see its yellow hue and acted like a street lamp so I could see some of where we were headed. We ended up so far into the woods that I couldn't see the lights of the city anymore. As I followed her into the trees and down the steep hill, I slipped into a shallow river below. The water was only ankle deep, but I fell on my hands and knees, splashing ice-cold water all over myself. The wolf made a growling sound, but it seemed more like she was laughing at me. "Oh, so that's funny to you?" I sat up on my knees and shook my arms, like that was gonna help. She licked her muzzle and pointed her nose forward. At first, all I saw were more trees and greenery. Slowly, as I continued looking, an old stone bridge emerged from the moss and ivy, like one of those weird 3D picture things from one of my mom's old books. It was fairly massive, and I felt stupid that it took so long to see it. If anyone else found themselves out here, I doubt they would ever even notice it either. But I had a guide. I stood and wiped my hands over my clothes in a strange attempt to push the water out of them. Cool, this bridge looks super old. The wolf made a grumbling noise. If she were a person, I could swear she was saying, "Well, duh." She walked towards the bridge. Once she was under it, she disappeared. I stopped. Wait, what? I walked slowly toward the bridge. Where did you go? I looked under the bridge into the darkness, thinking that maybe she went into a small opening on the side or jumped down into another crevasse or something. I walked under, keeping my hands against one side, but I didn't see anywhere she could go. As I continued, I could feel the water rising and tried to move higher up the stone. There was a bright flash of blue light that threw me a little off balance, and I stumbled before emerging from the other side. "Hello?" I called, looking around. Something felt different, but the moon seemed to be in a similar spot in the sky, maybe a little higher, wider, and brighter. The air smelled clear and was unusually quiet. "Hello? Is anybody out there?" I climbed up to flatter terrain and found a path leading out of the woods and to some lights in the distance. I figured I could go back into the city and ask for directions back to my house, or find a phone since mine was still in the backyard. I found my way to the source of the lights and found 2 lit torches framing the path. Looking farther down the path, I saw modest housing and even more lit torches. As I walked, I came across a cute little girl. She was around the same age as Reese, like maybe 8 or so. She was wearing ye old clothes from days of knighthood. Her dress was green, and she had a sweet little white apron over it, and a green bonnet on her head. "Hi there," I said to her. "There must be a Renaissance fair nearby. The sun set already, so I guess you guys are cleaning things up. It's too bad I missed it. You look great, by the way. Very realistic." Her eyes opened wide, and she stopped moving. "Hey, it's okay. I'm just a little bit lost. I'd be happy to ask your parents for directions if you prefer. I just need to get home before someone starts to worry." She swallowed hard and started to lean away, ready to run. I knelt down to her level and talked as sweetly as I could to calm her, my pendant dangling under my chin. "My name is Cricket. Cricket Mose. What's yours?" A man, who I can only assume was her father, came running up to her. He pulled her behind himself. "What are you doing here?" he said. I stood. Well, my name's Cricket, and I'm lost. I didn't mean to scare her. I'm not sure what I did to do that. She's not afraid of you, Lady Priestess. She's merely in awe of you. Well, it looked an awful lot like fear to me. The scrolls foretold of your coming. The true Princess of Alderos has come. He dropped to his knees. Both he and the girl bowed to me with their heads on the ground and their arms sprawled out so far that I was afraid I would crush them with my feet. I had to take a few steps back. The little girl's tiny fingers were almost touching my shoes. "What? No, I'm no priestess." He remained in his position. Other people ventured over. A few started to murmur to each other. "Get up, you're causing a scene." Another man approached and bowed in the same manner. After a few heartbeats, he sat up on his knees but kept his head lowered. I think I saw him trembling. "I am called Isan, Tiernan of Laud. Lady Priestess, please allow me to show you to a place where you can rest. You must be tired from your long journey. The scroll told us you would travel a great distance." Is this a joke? Oh, I get it. The fair's still going on, right? This is like improv or something? "Milady." He seemed confused. More people had gathered around. Some of them were looking at me like I was a goddess or something. Others were terrified and had bowed to the ground like Isan, the other guy, and his daughter. They really did seem more afraid than in awe to me. I opened my mouth to say something, but some crazy madman in a black jacket came charging out from behind the crowd on a large black horse. He was screaming like a battle cry or something. I stood there like a moron looking at him at first, until I realized that he was heading straight for me with a sword in his hand. Isan jumped up and stretched out his arms. He stood in the path of the raging maniac with the sword. "You will not harm this princess, Jorbreen. She is the only hope for Indaris." This Jorbreen guy stopped his horse just shy of running Isan over. The horse made some noises and reared up before prancing around and grunting. "Indaris was doomed from the moment the Overseers created it. Having the priestess perform the ceremony will only draw out its demise." Jorbreen's voice was deep and hearty. I imagined if he wasn't crazy, he would be recording children's books to tape. Well, maybe even then, who knows. "I have no idea what's going on here," I protested, "but I just want to go home." "Then do so." Jorbreen seemed very angry. "I will create a world away from the Overseers and their prophecies." His feet made a loud thud on the ground when he dismounted. He shoved by Isan and clumped in my direction, towering over me. "And as long as you are living, that dream will never become a reality." He grabbed me by the shoulders and lifted me from the ground. He put his nose to mine and shouted as loud as he could, "Why are you here?" I panicked. I started kicking him in his knees and began to wiggle. All that seemed to do was make him even angrier. He threw me to the ground and held me there with his giant, muddy, boot-covered foot. He lifted his sword above his head, pointed down at me, ready to stab. "I do not take orders from you, priestess. I refuse to be a servant to the Overseers any longer." I covered my head and wanted to curl into a ball. I heard Jorbreen screaming and felt his foot pushed down harder on my back. I thought he would crush my spine long before he stabbed me. The crowd was screaming for him to stop, but it didn't seem like they were going to do anything to try and help me other than that. Then I heard an authoritative voice start to shout, "Lord Aaron Breen, stop this madness!" I heard the ring of metal slamming against metal, and Jorbreen's foot was off my back. I rolled over onto my elbow and opened my eyes. There was a man wearing a tan military-style uniform with blue trim pushing Jorbreen back. He swung his sword and disarmed Jorbreen. The sword flew through the air and stabbed the ground next to my head. I immediately sat straight up. "Priestess," the second man shouted. He ran over, sliding down to me like he just stole home base. "Have you been injured?" There was a genuine look of concern in his eyes, his beautiful hazel eyes. He had to be at least 10 years older than me, maybe more, but he was very fit and lean. He talked just like Dad. His voice was compassionate and sweet. No, I guess I'm okay. I noticed blood had dripped down his fingers and grabbed his wrist. Oh, your hand! You hurt yourself trying to defend me. He smiled. Holy hell, was he hot. Do not concern yourself with my well-being, Lady Priestess. You should concern yourself with me, Lorgan, Jorbreen said. Lorgan wrapped his arms around me and I was engulfed in his scent. He smelled of patchouli with a hint of something sweet, like honeydew melon, maybe? He stared at Jorbreen while a third person came behind us. No, Breen, you should concern yourself with me. This man was about the same age as this Lorgan person, maybe older, and far more broad than Jorbreen. He wore only a pair of loose-fitting pants with a blue sash, like we were in Arabian Nights or something. His skin was a deep chocolate color, like my stepfather's, and his deeply familiar voice was even more rich and soothing than Jorbreen's. I thought, this guy should do a late-night jazz radio station. You know, when things turn smooth. Winewood, Jorbreen spat. We can continue this at a later time. My sword, if you please. The dark man pulled the sword from the ground and flipped it toward Jorbreen. He caught it in the air by the hilt. In an elegant and fluid motion, he wiped the blade before he slid it into the sheath. Another time, then, said Winewood. Jorbreen mounted his horse. The horse spun as Jorbreen glared at me before he rode off. What the hell just happened? I asked. My lady, said Lorgan. As far as I know, I didn't get picked up by a tornado or fall down a rabbit hole. I just went under a bridge. A stupid, everyday, ordinary bridge. Who are you? Where am I? I'm pretty sure I sounded like a squeaky lunatic. Lorgan helped me to my feet before kneeling. Lady Priestess, my name is Jor Weller Lorgan. I am a servant to the overseers, and your protector. All that I have is yours to command. He kissed my hand. The other man, Winewood, took my hand away from Weller, and also took a knee. I felt like two older men were trying to propose to me. My name is Jor Lorne Winewood. I am a servant to the overseers and your protector. All that I have is yours to command. He also kissed my hand. I felt a weird swirl of something vibrate through me. And then everything went black. Like, comment, and subscribe for more.